Capture Art etc. Poetry, Volume 3, January 2026. Capture is a brand new artist-run publication dedicated to promoting visual arts and writing, launched in October 2025. The project marked an exciting new strand of the HND Contemporary Art Practice course, CAP etc. Professional Practice and Exhibition Studies programme, which aims to provide a platform for new, emerging and established voices alike. Find out more at captureartetc.com. A note on the power of poetry. In the face of war and famine, under fire from hatred and vitriol, writing or reading poetry might seem frivolous. Poetry can be cast as romantic, ephemeral, and frilly in the face of its more serious siblings such as journalism. But as Margaret Atwood, the great matriarch of the 21st century literature, attests, a word after a word is power. And perhaps in dark times, this is the greatest gift we can be given, to be told that in pen and paper, in the words we hold in our hearts and notebooks, we have power. Side note, Atwood is renowned for her novels, but her poetry is phenomenal. In her article on the power of poetry, Julie Merrill Gardner, Nottingham Trent University, muses that writing is not an escape from anguish, but declares, if we write with courage and with integrity, it can take us to the very heart of it. Peter Mackay Curran-Macar, Scottish poet laureate, claims that poetry can even keep endangered languages alive. Image description. A magazine cover featuring a portrait of a young boy. His left eye is double vision, reads The Moth Art and Literature. Whilst Zara Mahmood writes in Rock and Art that poetry can articulate the immense weight of generational trauma or the fierce defiant hope of a protest movement. Bold claims. But what is it about poetry that makes it so powerful? Well, Samuel Taylor Coleridge said that poetry was the best word in the best order. But to get a bit more poetic about it, the brevity of the form means that careful consideration must be paid to each word, space, and punctuation mark. To get metaphorical about it, poetry is the dark, concentrated, smoky tones of good whiskey in the literary world. Or, in other words, it packs a punch in a few words, epic poetry aside, of course, which makes it the perfect vehicle to convey majestic sentiments and monumental ideas. With the power to navigate and portray human emotion, save languages, and topple our nemesis, why wouldn't we read and write poetry? So let's start with a word, and another, and before we know it, we might have the makings of something intensely powerful. And worry not if writing isn't your thing, we have a host of beautiful, powerful, and intriguing poems and poets in this issue that you're bound to be beguiled and may even be inspired. With huge thanks to all the contributors to whom, without your brave pens and kind words, this issue would not have been possible. With inspiration and bravery, Capture. Toothless by Gemma Third. I'm under the table. The clock tells 11:59 p.m. This is the last time I'll have you all to myself. There's shrieking and laughter coming from the kitchen, teeth licked and ready for midnight. This is the last time I swallow it. The way your hair falls mimics mine. Your eyes like molasses until hit with sunlight. You became honey in my hands once. I lick my right side canine and swivel my tongue around the star until it won't budge. It's lasted longer than we ever did. I held on to the table legs with both arms. I should have held you closer. The smell of wood and wine linger like the smoke on your breath. To taste again would be defeat. Irrevocably so. Under the table isn't as quiet as I had needed. I swallow my tongue, and with that your name. I can't welcome the new year with old cavities. Your voice is so loud I almost miss the fireworks. The clock tells midnight. That's it now. You're really gone from my breastbone. Where do I run when it's dark this winter? Where do I place myself when the sunlight breaks through the trees? Where do I turn to when I step out a cigarette? What do I do with my mouth? Who have I become if your image isn't playing on a carousel? Who will I believe when I am visited by this feeling again? Who will I tell of your sincerity? What do I do with my mouth? The clock tells midnight 01 a.m. The year is over. That's all I got of you. Houndstooth by Gemma Third. On New Year's Eve, I put myself to bed early. I couldn't stomach the change without you here. There is an empty pit where your love for me should be. It resides in the bottom of my heart and churns my stomach until I cannot eat. It is the last night of the year, where you left me with this feeling I call love for you. But I think after 365 days of carrying it around on my back and shoulders, I should give it another name. I call it grief. I think my heart is rotting in places. I have corners of my heart that even I don't visit, the corners where you live. I am nauseous from nostalgia. Maybe I should have begged forgiveness, love, realising all the beautiful things I could have accomplished had I not been so consumed by taking up as little space as possible. The space I occupy is cramped from the thought of you and the way you looked at me back then. On the days I miss you the most and get that feeling in my heart, I wonder if you can feel it too. Maybe if I think of you more loudly, it will disturb your sleep and you will pick up when the time comes. Happy New Year's. I promise I won't call. Rockstar Noir by Mike Cowley. You're standing at the junction between the light and the fire, watching Robert Johnson's licks. Turn to brimstone and fire. A lifetime of choices have led to this place, where the crows chant torch songs, the dogs scavenge for bones, and the poet's last verse becomes tomorrow's ringtone. Welcome to the crossroads, where the stars never sleep, the streets turn to rapids, and the generals weep. If you'd heard the laments and lifted your eyes, held a hand when it was offered and said your goodbyes, this juncture would be missed. A place with no map, a story we told ourselves on the long road back. You blew it, Johnny. All the girls cried your name, the bouncers name-checked you, all the boys bought your game. You must have seen them coming. With their ledgers and cadavers, rictus expressions and cocaine clipe hangovers, the trouble is, you can see it now. When love until then came in glares and slaps, empty plates and kitchen cold snaps, when they dangled, sang like the twittering machine, promises honed, bitter and lean. I drank it all in, I filled the spaces, wounds like ravenous, cancelled holidays, empty cases. I dare the rest of you not to walk in my shoes. My shot at immortality, and the debts it accrues. I was waiting at the junction, but the dark claimed my name, trying to flag a ride, but you never came. Skinhead Pincer Movement by Mike Cowley. We creased the shadows of the high street's glooms, an asphalt quarter of 1,000 moons, trenches occupied in a ghost culture battle, a closing flourish for Stapress Castle. The bells tolled and static came down. The sun reproached our last sortie into town. Without the means or the strategies to repel, just ahead and out of view, the best laid plans, if only we knew the skinhead pincer movement. Papers and people swirled in convulsions, unmoored by kinetics and the roar of compulsions, frozen in the frame of Littlewood's arches, a monotonous dump of boots and braces, blank expressions fixed, the quarry in sight, our best versions ready to be served up to the skinhead pincer movement. Sun Tzu's got nothing on these fuckers. Hannibal and Napoleon are tactical suckers. Evasive manoeuvres were taken smartly, but not so you'd notice. We were thinking only partly, just when refuge invited us in. On the cusp of shelter from history's bin, awaiting detachment completed, the skinhead pincer movement. I first felt a fist, and then a kick. But this wasn't a song, and we weren't John Wick. Head meet concrete, my mate a kick in the balls. Staff and customers settled in. A dance of fires in the hole, their feet were swift, the soles were practiced. An arc of violence, a perfect axis. We should have known this was no fresh lore, new military forms, new subcultural norms. No code breaking could have prepared us for the skinhead pincer movement. I appealed to the gods, but the immortals fell silent and looked the other way. The skinhead pincer movement is a game they don't play. The Burden of Bravery by Shay Morgan. I don't suffer from anxiety. I am burdened with immense bravery. I have seen that the monsters under the bed are very real and still continue to sleep in the bed every night. I have had to say goodnight to monsters far worse than any boogeyman, and even sit at the dinner table with them. I have seen how dangerous the world is and yet still leave the safety of my own home. I beat myself up because I can't be in public without feeling overwhelming anxiety, when I should be congratulating myself for even entertaining the idea of interacting with people when I've been hurt so badly by people before. Today I went to the beach. It might seem unremarkable to most people, however, every step I took away from home felt dangerous. The monster that was under the bed doesn't live there. He moves around with me. Sometimes he's in the distance, and I can just see him in my peripheral vision. Other times he's right behind me, breathing down my neck, dragging his claws around my chest. Sometimes he's in the front of me, screaming, "Go home, or I will kill you." Today, as I went to the beach, he was there, whispering doubt into my ear. I ignored him. He got louder. As I got to the beach, he stood in front of me screaming, but I didn't obey. I turned my back and walked away from him. With one foot in front of the other, I walked away, his shouts fading to mere whispers, until I couldn't hear him. All I could hear was the crashing of the waves and the pebbles under my feet. Now I know he's still there. He did not wash away with the waves at the beach, but today I won. A battle that no one else saw, a victory that leads me to the statement, I don't suffer from anxiety. I am burdened with immense bravery. Pause by Romana Docherty. A warm, thick cloud around my silhouette, breathing, rested like a living breeze, monotone, golden bulb gleaming in the night light. Silver glistening in my field of view, blurred shapes that could be anything I want them to be. If I can't see a perfume bottle, was it ever a perfume bottle? Or was it a blob of white on the dimmed dresser all along? Time goes ticking on, but the silence is phenomenal, like the world really has paused, just for me, to take this time and soak in the dark emptiness before tomorrow dawns a new page. Thank you. I can imagine the world going by in a slow motion as I type, because the pause is permitted. So undisturbed, I could almost go outside and run into the darkness, knowing not a soul would catch my eye, notice my figure or my bare feet on the dampened paths and uneven roads. I would only be disturbed by my own sense of sensibility. I am not running outside, but for now, whilst I am paused, I can imagine what it would be like to run amok outside in the looming darkness with only the glistening stars for viewers, with no judgment, no neighbours, no bright car lights or whistling birds, just me and everything else and nothing else at all. Thank you for the pause. Nothing Makes Sense by Romana Docherty. The only thing that makes sense right now is that nothing makes sense. I guess there's a minimal comfort in knowing to expect the unexpected. The dynamics turned upside down, the world going by but I'm always in it. I'm not observing, I'm part of the action whether I want to be or not. My oh my. I long for the day that the visions of my mind become my reality, when dancing is ephemeral and nothing else exists except sublime. Ode to a Lassie by Catherine Cullen. Why was the tree felt by youth stretching vulgarly with muscle a reflection of the man back home? Lust for girls, an artist without craft making money, the only way she knew. Pulsing, writhing, and loose-ended on the tree, one arm stretched round the bark, the other mere monkey singing to Mark from her toe tips, but ignoring a life in relationship past when normal life taught compliance where the heart all but felt. Instead, her lips pursed round her huge jaw, and she fell upon the ground, kicking mud. Life as a lass of lassies in bosoms to feel in bedrooms behind doors surprised her surreptitious ego and filled her with naked truth. It is there she learnt to act in remittance of her failures. But this was no misspent youth. In fact, she roared and became a stronger stringer, a woman and beauty both men and female admired, causing a calamity amongst them as she more than often settled for singledom. No suitor displeased her father, who suffered her misfortune and vile ways. You have nothing for me, came her reply to much of the guidance devoted, and her lassie strode from one end of Dundee High Street to another, wearing nothing but scant t-shirt and boots on the end of her feet, kicking up dust and debris, whilst her mother chose how much is this, and sucked her teeth behind forbidden thick lips. It was once enchantment of her younger son, a scoundrel of red hair, that bewitched and forced a lawless marriage now. She saw only her daughter for comfort in malice towards townsfolk, who tipped their hats and winked on passing, all knowing as both daughter and mother passed the mantle to other next of kin. White Cage in Bloom by Daniel Oakes. My bones are all wrong, but straining my jaw I protect their gaze from this jagged maw. The white cage in bloom, a cannibal womb, encrypting my most fatal flaw. Their bones are in closets, hanged and mothballed, fossils of values and virtues performed, mine a burden. Hide in folds of skin for fear of appearing without them deformed. My bones aren't so strong, often neglect their role of rigidly scaffolding my hastily writ soul. The trout all consumed in play death exhume, find well-rehearsed motifs mocking back from the hole. I, robot, was built from galvanized guilt, a calcified metallic sigh. I serve and persist, but if I wish to live, then I must be able to die. Yet vampire am I, to feed as they cry, my eyes fixed upon the stakes. Impregnable steel, designed to conceal. My veins are not wires but snakes. Sinuous reminders, yet I can't recall the truth I've postponed for my hardest fall. My bones are just wrong. Recast me in dirt and water with years lost by those I hurt. This composted construct of ossified rust returned to cold comfort of meaningless dust. My bones hear a song through faint against black, a perennial flame arising from lack that light lies within no tunnel, no end. I spiral and branch, and though doubtful, ascend. Reincarnating me, not recursive oak tree, more like willow, I weep and I bend. Treasure Map by Daniel Oakes. Stranded by captains for a mutiny unplanned, still cynically sifting my well-trodden sand, while hunting for treasure they assured was no lie, Your arrival was as startling as a sun in black sky. Map and territory, the real and the story, a mistake is not made when such partners are found. It is made when we hide those trinkets we've spied and preface an X atop firm flattened ground. Reactions we've learned to maintain our wealth of guilt imperfections, the cost for our health. Connections are kindling, we burn so we smother, for fear of our worth by being judged by the other. This overcorrection, our quietest shame, fearful provisions, dotted lines for my name, rough seas, tall trees, a sea serpent or two, I pay their tales no heed, my direction is you. This overlooked treasure, radiant deserving, something a life could be given in serving. My search now for answers, how something so small can shine down so brightly, my North Star I'd call. But more than an anchor for my navigation, the lesson, the gift from you has been patience. OK Cupid's Picks for You by Dylan McNulty Holmes, pronouns he, they. Sasha, wow, looking like the embellished detail in a favourite anecdote. Peter, baubled. Elisa, buttered popcorn. Jacqueline, the patch of shade in the cave after the light's been dazzling off the sea right at me all morning. Rebecca, I marvel at your metallic symmetry. Helena, dawn over quiet streets, enjoyed alone. Ali, hand-rolled cigarettes in cheap polyester. Who among us could ignore Emma? The enormous pot of lentils you offer the hungry children? Oh, flamingo-necked Liane. Oh, Leo, neon handful. Sophia, you glad palpitation. Oikyu, teaching me that sitting close to red is its own kind of seduction. Kristen, pressing the bottle cap back with your mightiest incisor. Carla, you gaze humming like the bass line from a song whose words I've forgotten entirely. Sarah, it's been a long week. I just want to dance. Hedwig, can I tell you a secret? Dill, do you come here to window shop too? Hannah, don't you love us for that? Our gorging on these feasts of imagined queer desire? Lilac, will you love me like this? A hungry portal back to yourself? God, Lynn, rolling to the other side of the picnic blanket, following the sun as she saunters through the mid-afternoon. God, Hannah, you're immaculate. Grace, God, Sophia, how I wish I was the word you were halfway through saying when the shutter clicked. Cynthia, what I wouldn't give to be the ladder in your tights. Clarissa, please, show me how your autumn aches. Kitty, hey, good to match you. How's your day going so far? Rhymes by Dylan McNulty Holmes, pronouns he, they. I spend the season looking at everyone's lips. Grey hunks of dead skin, I spend the season rubbing mid-range moisturiser into my reptilian knuckles. I spend the season watching a father introduce his frost-pinkened baby to snow. I spend the season taking the bench vacated by a man with a bleached lavender moustache, reminding myself I too once was covered in sequins like the glitter of gutted fish on ice on sail. I spend the season running into elevators held open by fur-hatted Polish grandmothers, smiling and saying words I don't understand. There is not a single Slavic septuagenarian who isn't disappointed by my English accent. I am disappointed by my English accent. This season won't teach me how to live up to the promise of this dry face. Where Porcelain Gathers by Ed Cawood. From face to face, careful to avoid laminar rivulets soaking through my shoes, I step cautiously around the big sister. Her fissures glint, vitreous under the rapidly expanding light. Here facing north, looking across the estuary, Mercury pools. I twisted my ankle in this spot last year, a symptom of my impatience. October's first patinas have scattered across the bench. Soon to be swallowed, they shiver, fearful of the ravenous ascent of the 11 o'clock tide. On this side of Big Ox, shards of painted pottery are trapped in her wrinkles. The sky blooms over Fife. The king's unsettled crown, pink-fingered, I place my palm on the earth's back and feel the waves run over the back of my hand. The blood rushes under my skin. The Human Clay by Matt Francie. I feel so strongly that an artist must be breathing deeply and it must alter him, taking time to stretch your whole sensibility. I felt shame dictate the paintings, the beauty I feed off. Exploration of desire, unhappiness, love language, life and why. Interviews with contemporary artists, contemporary lovers, artists nourished by passions. Cavorting sensual, visceral elements, twisted forms, and his despairs cite human condition. Drinking through creativity, quoted. Feelings of desperation and unhappiness are emotional pleas for help. Recognizable, figural, nuanced, abstract, erotic expressionism. It was dark. I walked forever, high amongst the nature of it. Francis Bacon. I work paint. Ones to watch. McNish is a homegrown poet and performer now living between Cambridge and Glasgow. Her most recent publication, Virgin, blows apart the stereotype shackles and shame associated with her anthology's title with gumption and panache. She has a host of accolades to her name, including the kudos-worthy first poet to record at Abbey Road. Read more at hollypoetry.com. We have partly included Michael Pedersen as he is Holly's partner and there's nothing cuter than a poetry couple, but also because he is an awesome writer, performer and poet. Not only this, but he is the Edinburgh Macar Edinburgh University Writer-in-Residence, co-founded New Recce, which produces international literary events, and he is the Cat Prince. Find out more at michaelpedersen.com. Image description: a book with a light blue cover features a Venus flytrap and reads Holly McNish Virgin. Image description: a book with a beige cover features a drawing of an oyster and reads Oyster, Michael Pedersen, with illustrations by Scott Hutchison. Other poetry stuff to read and do. Scottish Poetry Library podcast. Scottish Poetry Library has a long-running podcast available on podbean.com, recently featuring Thomas A. Clarke's latest poetry collection, Thrums, and works with Ioana Adcock, discussed by Samuel Tongue. Push the Boat Out. A free open mic night run in collaboration with Scotland's literary festival Rock the Boat, hosted by Catherine Wilson-Gary and Julia Sorensen. This monthly event gives new and established voices a stage and an audience. The Moth magazine. The Moth hosts annual awards such as the Moth Poetry Prize and the Moth Nature Writing Prize. The magazine features an array of exquisite artwork and literature. Mislexia. Mislexia is a non-profit organisation focused on helping to empower female writers and get their work recognised. They offer a quarterly magazine championing established and completely new women's writing alongside competitions and development opportunities. Gutter magazine, a Scottish publication by Scotland-based poets and writers, recently featuring Peter Mackay's poem, An Innocuous Poem About Otters, available in Scottish, Gaelic and English. Image descriptions. A concrete, glass and wood two-storey building sits on a cobbled street. A metal sign reads Scottish Poetry Library. Image description: 3 magazines are splayed out in a wooden table with the title Mislexia. The top magazine features a female wrapped in fairy lights. Image description: a book with a dark blue cover and blue, white and purple abstract artwork reads Gutter, New Scottish and International Writing No. 3.